All right, Big Man, today is Tuesday. It's June 7th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. It's Eddie. It's Chief. Chief, how are you?
I'm good. I'm starting to hit the wall a little bit. Mm-hmm. Long day. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, this topic today, I'm not really like a supernatural ghost guy. A little creeped out.
So this was a topic that was tweeted at us and DM'd to us a good bit, I would say, over the last week.
Even our guy Danny Conrad was like, hey, check this out.
And like, I want to be particular when we go about it, but it was talk on Twitter. So if it's news, it's, it's to be talked about.
Well, do you want to say why you're...
Yeah, so someone just died in Lake Lanier, which is a lake in Georgia.
Yep.
And obviously it's fucking very tragic. You don't like it when someone dies, especially of a horrific drowning accident.
Yep.
But it seems to be, with the chatter on Twitter, that there's more under the surface to what's going on at Lake Lanier, possibly, or people believe there is, at least.
Literally and figuratively underneath the surface. So it's like it's an interesting subject matter. And I think there's... I think there's like a little bit of everything, like a little mix of truth with, just human reaction to being scared about mysterious things going on. So it's like I said, I was a little bit creeped out by this, and I'm normally like, that stuff's bullshit, but this is a little weird. Yeah,
I would say so. I'm interested to hear about it and break it all down.
Yeah. All right, boys. The birds are chirping, the bees are buzzing, summer's out. This is the time where you got to come prepared. You got to do your homework. You got to have that Roman swipe on you at a moment's notice. Keep it in your wallet. It is the secret to longer lasting sex. Roman swipes are clinically proven way to last longer in bed. They're effective, easy to use, and fast acting, and they don't require a prescription. Roman can ship swipes to you in discreet, unmarked packaging. I don't even think that's necessary. I always say, whip it out, let them know you're putting the effort in, you put the thought in, you came prepared, no shame, use Roman. Each swipes packet is small enough to hide in your wallet if you do want to go that route. For whenever you need it, it's right there. They're super easy to use. Just the swipes out of the pocket, swipe it on, let it dry, and you're good to go. It doesn't transfer your partner. You're both going to have a great time. If you go to GetRoman.com/dogwalk, that's GetRoman.com/dogwalk to get $10 off when you choose a monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/dogwalk. Now, I got to say, Roman's very generous. They think you're slinging a lot of dick out there. They're very generous about how much sex they think you should have in a monthly plan. So keep that in mind, too. It's a great deal. Again, $10 off when you use promo code DOGWALK at GetRoman.com.
So, all right, Lake Lanier, where do we start?
Well, it's not like a real lake, first of all. It's a reservoir. So it was built in by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in 1956. And you ever heard that Alan Jackson song? Chattahoochee?
Chattahoochee, of course.
Okay, so
which one?
Yeah,
Alan Jackson,
I know you're a 90s country guy.
Yeah.
So down on the Chattahoochee River, it's hotter than a hoochie coochie. Okay, so they built this Buford Dam on the Chattahoochee River to kind of control like the flow of the river, but more so. In the 50s is when Atlanta started kind of booming as a city, and they needed like the hydropower to power the city and the surrounding suburbs that were popping up around it. So they built this they call it Lake Lanier, but they built this Buford Dam, and the thing is fucking massive. Okay, it's 37,000 acres. It's 58 square miles. So like just like if you look at it on a map, it looks like holy shit. Like that is a giant lake that they just decided one day to make it, and they did. But like anything else, like there was stuff that was there before, and I think a lot of that stuff, both supernatural and natural, contribute to some of the hysteria and some of the curses or whatever you want to say surrounding this lake, because it is, it's like they're familiar stories that you've heard in other places. But I haven't been to this lake. But I dated this girl in Tennessee for a long time, and her family lived in this place called Winchester, Tennessee, which is, have you ever heard of Bonnaroo?
Yeah.
So it's near Manchester, Tennessee. So it's called Tim's Ford Lake, and it's kind of the same sort of thing. So I don't have experience with this lake, but Tim's Ford Lake, same thing. It was a reservoir that was built in like the 30s under FDR. They had the Tennessee Valley project, which was building all these river, like damming up these places for hydroelectricity, and was basically just like, we're in the Great Depression, let's have all these public works and get people back to work. And this is one of those projects. And they look from overhead like very similar. They have like these little pockets of islands. They have a ton of little like coves and inlets. It's not like just one big round lake like you might see, like you went up to Minocqua. Like that's kind of like just a bigger lake you can kind of see across it. This is like a massive sprawling thing with a million little like coves and inlets and things like that. And then if you get to certain sections, you can kind of, the water, at least in this one, would get clear, and you can look down and be like, that's a paved road. What the fuck is that? And that's the same thing that was going on in this Lake Lanier, is that they were looking for places to build this thing. They settled on this area in northern Georgia, which is 60 miles from Atlanta, and they built the dam. But in order to build the lake and get the water levels where they wanted, they had to claim all of these little towns and villages through eminent domain, which eminent domain means the government, like Ed, let's say like, I don't know, you live over by O'Hare, right?
Yep.
Okay. So if the government came in and was like, hey, like we want to expand O'Hare and build these other runways or terminals or whatever, they could just come in and be like, you're out.
Shout out Bensonville. Yeah.
Right.
It's a similar, do you remember what happened to Bensonville?
No.
At Bensonville's like borders O'Hare.
I know that.
Basically just like
decimated it.
This whole town.
Okay, so I didn't know that. Yeah. The only reason I know Bensonville is because they have a big hockey rink there.
Yeah.
So, and they used to have like a USHL team. Anyways, but that's like eminent domain. They use it to like build highways and all these things. So they did that in this area in Georgia where they're just like, hey, they'll pay you, but not much. Okay, so like the first bit of land that they saw that I read about was this farmer, and they're like, hey, like we're gonna buy your land to build this dam in this lake. Here's $4,100, which is the equivalent of like I think 45 grand, maybe something like in that neighborhood today, in today's money. Go fuck off, okay? And they just did that up and down that area, and to the tune of they displaced 250 families. 15 businesses, and what else? As many as 20 cemeteries. Okay, so that's like where some of this stuff, and we'll get into some of the other things that are happening too. But it was 20 cemeteries, and they claim that they dug up and moved all the cemeteries. But there are like experienced divers who will go down there and see like just headstones like in the bottom of this lake, which is kind of fucking creepy. And you can see this if you pull it up on YouTube. There's some like kind of grainy, diver footage from like the 90s and 2000s where guys are, it's dark, it's deep underwater. The depths of this thing, I think the deepest point is like 158 feet. So it's like, it can be very deep in certain spots. And then in other spots, it's not deep enough, which causes some of the problems. There are this is in a pretty populated area or near, it borders like 6 different counties. Like I said, it's only 60 miles from Atlanta. So this Lake Lanier gets 7 million visitors that are going there for recreation, which I'm sure on some level Atlanta or Georgia likes, but the lake was never intended for recreation. So you have like, it's inherently dangerous because you have all sorts of crazy debris, rubble from buildings. There's a whole fucking forest that, like there had, trees, right? Because it was along this riverbank. And then they came through and flooded it. There are sections where it's just like, hey, like there's like a fucking 20-foot tree, 30-foot tree just still in its root system underneath the surface of the water. And if the lake levels drop and all of a sudden, that tree top was, 8 feet from the surface where it's not going to cause any damages to boats. If that lake level drops and now it's 3 feet, so it's still submerged, but your bottom of your boat's going to hit it. You hit that thing, your boat capsizes, you're fucking, drowning and dead. Okay. And then it's also, it's a lake, but it's a dam, with a river, and it continues to flow at other places. So it's not like it's just this still, water. Like there are like undercurrents that can like drag people and hurt boats. And if you're swimming, you get caught in something and you're going to get fucked and drowned because the lake itself, this reservoir was never intended to have swimmers, boaters, fishermen, all this water skiing, whatever else is going on down there. It was just a project to generate electricity and hopefully control some of the, they had some like history of flooding and droughts. And they wanted to like kind of regulate that so you could have, so it would be better for the whole area, better for agriculture, better for, just a generic water supply. And then again, like the main thing was powering Atlanta. So that was, like I said, it was opened in 1956 officially. There have been almost 700 deaths since then, drownings, boating accidents, a few suicides, and there's like as many as 35, they say now, bodies that were just never recovered. So there's, if you have that many deaths in this area, you're naturally going to start to look for explanations beyond just Timmy hit his head and drowned, and you start to hear like these kind of creepy ghost stories. And just as like a frame of reference, when I was doing the research for this, I was like, let me look up that Timms Ford Lake in Winchester. Maybe this is a problem that exists in all of these kind of man-made, river, electricity, hydro dam, man-made lake areas. And like any lake, there's some drownings at that Timms Ford, nowhere near what's going on at Lake Lanier. So something, I don't know if there's more debris or damage, or there's something about the water that's inherently more dangerous that's causing these things. And they have signs saying like, hey, this specific area of the lake, not safe. Like we don't recommend swimming in this particular area because maybe they have different currents or debris or whatever. But there's just like, if there's like a higher rate of, accidents, they try to warn you. All right, let's take a quick break here, and I want to talk to you guys about Upstart. Upstart are powered personal loans that can help you pay down high interest debt all online with simple, easy to understand payment terms. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating that high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, Upstart can help you get one fixed monthly payment plan with a clear payoff date. I can't stress how important that is. If you're in the, in the market for a home, you're trying to get everything prepared, you're trying to be an adult now, it's difficult. We got one bill due this day, this amount, blah, blah, blah. Very difficult. If you go to Upstart, that's all going to be reduced down to one monthly payment that's so easy to figure out. And they take all sorts of things into account rather than just looking at your credit score. Upstart models consider other factors like your income, employment, and other information provided in your loan application to find you a smarter rate for your loan. You can check rates in minutes for loans between $1,000 and $50,000 without impacting your credit score. Again, I can't stress how important it is to have good credit and how easily it is to ding it. This is a way to get that loan without it impacting your credit score. Again, go to upstart.com/Eddie, upstart.com/Eddie, and those loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and other information provided in that loan application. It's simple. It's easy to use. You just got to go over to Upstart, upstart.com/Eddie. And now back to the show. But, it's still a recreational place. But with all these deaths, like I said, come these kind of ghost stories. One of them is called The Lady of the Lake. Okay. This was in like shortly after the thing was open in the late 50s. This woman, Susie Roberts, was driving across the Dawsonville highway bridge going across this lake. Somehow her car went over the railing. She had a passenger with her. They found the passenger. No signs of Susie anywhere. And so that body still to this day never recovered. In 1990, more than 30 years after she disappeared, they found the car. Still, nobody in the car, never found her. But now people are like convinced that she's a ghost. And she walks along the bridge. There's this woman, she's like an attractive young woman, walks on the bridge, but she has no hands. And there's been all sorts of reportings of seeing this lady of the lake. And to me, it's like weird that they found the friend, they found the car 30 years later, still no sign of Susie. Like kind of a little creepy. Okay. Then there's all sorts of like issues like this in this area where there was a reported accident in 1903 in the area. So long before the lake was created, 88 people died in some accident. I can't remember what happened to them, but they were buried in that area. And the people are saying that, the government kind of lied about how they transported these bodies and these cemeteries and things in the area, that they never actually really did it. So when they find these headstones, there's this diver who did an interview with CNN in 2017. He's like investigating, he's got a camera, he's going down, he sees body parts and arms and limbs, and he pulls on them. They just don't move. And he's like, it's really fucking creepy down there. And the body parts are like somewhat preserved because they're well underwater and like deep underwater, and it's cold. So they're not like decaying the way a person buried in the ground would be, So they're saying that the ghosts from that death started haunting the area. Once their graves were disturbed, there was also theorized, and there's enough evidence to say that there was an Indian burial ground there too, that they just didn't give a fuck about because they're like, well, this is before us anyway, so flood them. We don't have to worry about moving those bodies. We'll just cover them with water. The U.S. government. And then one of the more notorious ones was this town called Oscarville, Georgia. And Oscarville has a story that's horrible. It's a horrible story. And it reminds you of that, To Kill a Mockingbird a little bit. But in Oscarville at the time, I think this was in the 30s, was this kind of a thriving black community out in this area, north of Georgia, where they had landowners, they had community, they were like a burgeoning black middle class. They had this village of, I think it was 1,900 people, and, they're doing very well for themselves. A white woman was found in the woods near Oscarville, Georgia, beaten badly, sexually assaulted, and she died like a few hours after she was found. The neighboring white community came in, arrested 80 people instantly, and charged 4 of those people, including this guy named Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards was dragged from the jail by a white mob, lynched from a telephone pole, and then the townspeople who were part of the mob went through and just shot his body up with bullets. No trial, just arrested. Let's get this guy. He did it. Nothing. Hung him up, killed him, desecrated the body. And basically that was just the start. The white community, like with the, they were like a branch of the KKK, they said, basically used terrorism to drive. And there's you can pull up newspaper articles with ads that say, African, whatever, not wanted in North Georgia. You have 24 hours to get out. Okay. This is what they're dealing with. And they would burn their churches and burn their homes and shoot stray bullets into their, to the point that Oscarville was effectively turned into a ghost town. Okay. And there were just a few people left in that area. And when the government came in and was like, doing the eminent domain thing, but they offered them less money. So you have to leave. We're taking your land. They've had that farmland or whatever they're using it for since Reconstruction, since the 1870s. So when, their grandparents were freed, and, they had that old, they were given 40 acres and a mule was like what they were, people were given after the Civil War. And they had turned, these farms into working, thriving farms in a thriving community. Now, and basically, I would call them white terrorists, drove them out. And then once they were largely out, the government, through eminent domain, just threw pennies at them, said, get out of here. And then people are saying that part of that, is led to bad omens or curses or things like that have led to all of these deaths occurring in and around Lake Lanier. And there's just, they have other strange things too, where you'll have, they call them like storm swells, where and you can look them up and see pictures of them, crazy waves, like just appearing out of nowhere. So I don't know if that's like water rushing through, or if they have like they release the dam and it hits a rock or a tree or a submerged boat or something and just creates this whirlpool and a wave, but they seemingly appear out of nowhere and then suck boats, capsize boats, suck people down. And, they basically, there's people who are claiming that are survivors of like these drowning things, that they feel like hands on them when they're getting pulled underneath, and then somehow they free themselves and get to the surface. But that's what survivors claim, is that like it was not like I was just out of breath. It was I'm being pulled down below. So like a little bit creepy. And it's like if you're approaching 700 deaths, it might be time to restrict where people can swim and boat and do everything else in like a real way. And then, there's just a few other like stories, like this guy named Kelly Nash in 2015. He woke up early in the morning next to his girlfriend. He's like a young guy, strong guy, 6'2", 230. Sounds basically built like me, right? Like just, and then he said he was feeling sick. His girlfriend went back to bed. She woke up at 7:30 in the morning. He's gone. His wallet's there, his phone's there, his keys are there, his car's there. He's gone, and just missing person. They find his body in Lake Lanier like a month later, and a single gunshot wound, wearing the same pajama pants he was wearing in the morning. So people are like, was it suicide? And they're like, well, some people say it was. Other people were like, we don't know what happens, but maybe there's just, people are speculating there might be like a serial killer, like who's drowning people. And there's just death, like insanely high rate of deaths compared to other and unexplained deaths, and missing bodies that just never turn up compared to other lakes and reservoirs of its kind. So it's very like kind of eerie, disturbing, and a dark, dark history with this Oscarville and, these eminent domain seizures. And it's just like, Jesus, like it seems kind of creepy and bad there. And I'm not a creep out person, but I'm getting like all of these things together. I'm like, something fishy is going on. Something's in the water. And then, people are saying, hey, well, there's also like giant catfish down there too, like 10-foot catfish. And like people speculate that when they're claiming they see these different things, like maybe it's actually that. But then you would hear stories, and like fishing at night is a big thing in the South. Like you probably talked to Sydney about it. They call it noodling. Not noodling, because I did it on that other lake. But you basically tie your bait to a noodle, like a floating noodle, or a milk jug. You throw it in the water at night, and you're drinking, and then you go back out the next day, and you have like your series of basically floating buoys with bait and fishing line on it. You pull them up and fry them up and eat them. It's delicious. And there was this story of these two guys. This is in the 2012 or something like that they were out there, okay, and they see this guy in a raft. He's like wearing all white, like a hooded raft, and he's like pulling it with a big stick or an oar, standing up. And they like make eye contact with this thing. The thing jumps out of the boat, starts furiously swimming towards them. It jumps off his raft, rather, towards their fishing boat. They're fishing at night, so they have a giant spotlight. And so they shine the spotlight at the guy swimming, screaming at him. The boat's gone. It had a lantern. A raft's gone. They had a lantern from the front of the raft, gone. Guy swimming at him, gone. And they're just like, what the fuck? And they just hightail it out of there because they're creeped out. But there's lots of little,
That's a shit ton of little stories. So you said you let it on to believe out the top. Do you think there is some supernatural stuff?
I don't know what it is, but it's one of those things where I don't really believe in that stuff. And I would never be like, yeah, it was a ghost and this lady of the lake and she's walking the bridge and this guy in the raft, like air full of shit. That would be my inclination. But they have so many deaths and so many unexplained things that I would probably be like, if someone told me that story, I'd be like, yeah, we're full of shit. And then if they were like, hey, you want to go, swimming at night or go fishing at night? on Lake Lanier, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm good on that. So it's like my words would be like, I think you're full of shit. My actions would be like, maybe there's something to it. And that's Lake Lanier. A pretty kind of creepy place with a bad history.
Yeah, I mean, the Lady of the Lake, I feel is like that's a common tale, right? Just to maybe in a different kind of, like that reminds me a lot of Resurrection Mary. I don't know if you've heard that one. That's a Chicago one.
Maybe, no. Remind me.
There's a cemetery in Justice, Illinois, right there off Archer, I believe it is. Okay. And a woman was on her way to the ballroom, and she died in a car accident, I think.
Okay.
And I could be missing minor details, but this is the gist of it. And ever since then, people say on this stretch of road that they are summoned by a hitchhiker in a white dress. And then right when they go to pull over and open the door, she disappears.
Are you a ghost guy?
I like to
read
about them. Yeah. And I would say to an extent.
Yeah, because you're a creepy movie guy.
Yeah. So I've driven past before.
Okay.
Right? Of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Stakeout.
Yeah. I've went to check it out, see if, Mary wants to ride to 7-Eleven.
Maybe
you know
not
what I mean?
Pull her over in the Tesla.
Yeah. Well, maybe I got a better chance now.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
She's pro electric vehicles.
Blow her fucking mind. She's probably never thought that was even possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that movie? It's like Harrison Ford, Michelle Pfeiffer, What Lies Beneath?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So there's a scene in that movie where there's a lady of the lake essentially who like pulls somebody down underwater, and it's like, holy fuck, like that. I remember I've only seen it the one time. I don't really like doing scary movies because that creeped the shit out of me. But that was one of those, and I was like, it flashed in my mind. It was like, ooh, another Lady of the Lake type of situation.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That so she was hit. Oh yeah, she was walking on the road after she went to a ballroom. There's the Willowbrook ballroom that's right there. It used to be the O. Henry Ballroom. Okay. And she got hit by a hit and run, walking on the road.
Okay.
So yeah, but you know what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That
some similar allegories.
There's enough there to be like, all right, like that sounds eerily similar to the one here, and I'm sure there's other ones around the country. What they did to that town is fucked up, and I could see that being a bad omen forever.
Yeah.
And to flood out a cemetery, obviously.
And just for the government to claim at the time, oh yeah, we moved every cemetery, every body, and then they go and find the headstones. It's like, wait, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
So you
Man,
clearly
that's
didn't.
Creepy to just be wondering what's under there.
Yeah.
And to see how many.
I remember going to that one in Winchester in Tennessee, being like, this. I was never felt like in danger or anything, obviously, because there's drownings there, but like I said, not many. But just seeing oh my God, there's a paved road 20 feet, what the fuck? It's just a weird, because you've never seen that before, because it's, why would there be a paved road 20, 25 feet underwater?
Yeah, it's weird to think about.
And so that paved road, and there's other places where they're if you think of what those towns, the big square buildings, they have places at the lake that have those, supposedly, I didn't see those submerged underwater. And it's just wow, that's really weird that they're we're putting it here, and everything that's here now, or fuck it, but someone was running a business there, someone was living there, someone was buried there, and they're just well, we need this for electricity or jobs or whatever, so whoosh, here comes the water.
It's people watch Better Call Saul. That's what they just went through that with
I still haven't watched
a nursing home. Yeah, you should check it out.
Yeah, I'm sure I love Breaking Bad.
You have about a month to catch up if you want
before the new season,
before the final.
That's kind of what I did with Breaking Bad too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had missed. I didn't watch it live until the last season, kind of what you did with Thrones.
Yeah, I did that with Breaking Bad as well. Too.
Oh, did you? Okay, yeah. So I remember, I think I had just got Netflix or something like that, and it was kind of synced up, or maybe I bought the DVD set or something like that. It was a while ago, and I remember being whoa, this show is unbelievable. I was actually kind of pissed because then I went through watching 4 episodes at a time, to having to be well, I got to wait until fucking Sunday night.
Yeah, it's a change up.
Yeah.
It's a change up for sure. But that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot of shit.
It's a smoke, there's fire kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Where you're I'm not really a ghost guy, but
but get me out of that
There's
water.
a lot of dude. Yeah, when are they just gonna ban people from using it? What the fuck?
Or at least sections of it, because I'm sure there are sections that are more dangerous than others, and you know, because there's some, you know, they have like, you know, if they have a drought, like the water levels drop. So certain places, like the water levels will drop, and you'll see like this boat that sank there, like its whole hull is capsized, but it's sticking out of the water, but it's been there for God knows how long.
Dude, that's crazy. You just wrote that blog a couple weeks ago about that Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, yes. yeah, where they're finding like the dead mafia bodies.
They found a guy in a barrel, a drum, a gallon drum.
Yeah, they just stuff him in there and throw him in the lake. That's Lake Mead outside of Las Vegas. Yeah,
crazy, dude.
Crazy. Yeah, and I'm sure there's places like that all over the country where that's going on, and there's just like this underworld. It feels like that I have, you know, fucking suburbia idiot that just has no idea what's going on around the world.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously you hopefully it never happens ever, but could you imagine seeing the bottom of the oceans?
Dude, you know what my number one, like I did the blog about they found like all these ancient civilizations in the rainforest using LiDAR, which is this laser system. And then I wrote a blog today because these guys who read that blog and listened to that podcast, who are working on this project, found that it's like a mythical city called the Lost City of Gold. And they found it with same sort of technology. And the guy, one of the guys who reached out, he's like, it's so weird seeing like all my nerd PhD shit pop up on Barstool. And he's like, believe it or not, like we use this technology. They use it on Mars. And he's like, we have government contracts. He's like, I don't know 98% of the stuff that we're doing because it's like highly, highly classified. What I really want to know, what is under all that ice in Antarctica? There's got to be like the coolest like fossils and like frozen animals of things you couldn't fucking believe. And they think, you know, because at one point that was like tropical, right? They found like plant material in the ice in Antarctica and fossils of plant material like around coastlines that are like a palm tree in Antarctica, okay? And there's a theory that, you know, all the, like the marsupials on Australia, well, they got there through a land bridge that started in South America and went across Antarctica and ended up in Australia. And then when, you know, those sea levels rise and things get blocked off, you have like this super diversified where you have koalas and kangaroos, and in North and South America, we have possums as like kind of our last remaining marsupial. But they got a shit ton of them over there. They think they originally came from South America via Antarctica. But there's got to be all sorts of like who knows? There could be fucking alien spaceships down there 30 miles below the ice that we would have no way. Start shooting those lasers in Antarctica, and I want to know what's down there.
Shout out Pangea.
Pangea, yeah, all that shit. You know there's going to be, like, I'm not rooting for global warming, but finding out what's underneath Antarctica would be fucking unbelievable. Yeah. What if we find, like, some unbelievable, like, plant remnants that can cure cancer down there? You never know.
Yeah.
There's probably unbelievable dinosaurs that we couldn't think of. Like, maybe there's dragons down there. Dragons are a real thing. 100% convinced of that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think I did a blog about this maybe 3 years ago.
There's so much smoke with that there's got to be.
How does every single civilization in the world that haven't had any sort of contact for thousands of years, right? They didn't even know North America, but like there are Hopi Indians in New Mexico that have dragon myths. There's tribes in the, you know, Aztecs, Mayans, Incas, they have dragon myths. Chinese, Japanese dragon myths, England dragon myths, France dragon myths, North Africa dragon myths, Nigeria area, all of these places, India, all of these cultures all over the world came up with the exact same thing independent of each other. They must have been real. They must have been real. There's no way they could all dream up the same flying, fire-breathing shit. Someone saw that thing. And they also think, you know, now they say that dinosaurs were really birds. So
yeah,
they were, and that's why you can't find dragon fossils. And it's because bird bones, that's what helps them fly and stay so light, is that they're like very porous and hollow. So they're able to glide. So it's like, well, why haven't we found any dragon bones? If their dragons are a real thing, why haven't we found any fossils? because they break down so quickly, same as a bird. So it's like, that makes sense. So maybe that they were dragons, and maybe we can find a frozen one down in Antarctica.
How does it even work though? How are they finding bones and being like, "Yep, this is to this one"? Like the way that they do that is crazy. Like how they're like, "Oh, I just sizing that up." No way, that's a dragon. You know, it's just. And I know there's more archaeological fucking testing and whatnot, but like, just the thought of like, oh, that's this specific piece to this skull.
Like you're talking like Sioux or whatever.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I have no idea, but I'd love to like. I'd love to do a series with like Donnie or something where you just like go into the jungle with these like PhD guys with their lasers, be like, let's find that fucking gold.
Yeah,
let's find that gold. Let's find those dragons. Rediscovering ancient world or something. I don't know.
No, that's something.
Yeah.
That's something. All right, Chief. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That was Lake Lanier.
And dragons.
And dragons. A lot of people requested that. So.
Yeah.
Freaky shit.
Big time.
All right, everybody. That's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.